Okay.
Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about a case that happened in reality, and it has to do with a special auction. It's called two-tier auction, and I explain slowly. So let me tell you what it's about. In the 70s, there was a trend of buying inefficient firms. So there were some funds that raised money on the purpose of going after firms that have good product but are managed not in the most efficient way. Take them over, get rid of the management, improve the management, and then go back to the market and making money. That was the entire idea. And typically, why a firm may run inefficiently, sometimes the CEO, who knows the board for a long time, have good terms with them, get maybe the bonuses and the way to incentivize the CEO sometimes is done not by the most efficient way. Okay, and moreover, I can say that sometimes the CEO doesn't like to take a proper risk, because if you don't take risk, and the firm does not get into a big trouble, you may continue in your job. Taking risk is risky for the CEO, but it's very good for the shareholders. Let me explain that point. You see, as let's say pension fund, and most of them are talking about institutions. Institutions are actually invested in many firms, okay, companies. So they are not interested in a specific one. I mean, and they are ready to take risk because they look on the average of all their portfolio. So they wanted the CEO of a company to take not unreasonable risk, but a calculated risk, even though it may sometimes cost his position or her position. Why? Because taking risk, sometimes you don't know what caused the failure, the risk or other market conditions. So a CEO may sometimes be fired from a company, even though he's not to be blamed. But sometimes it is because he didn't take or she didn't take a proper risk, and compared to the other companies in the field, actually the companies did quite poorly. So in that case, if you believe that the CEO together with the management are not functioning very well, the best thing to do is to get rid of them. But to get rid of them without taking over the company is not easy. Okay, you have some time to go to the shareholders, called hostile takeover, because if you go to the CEO, the chair of the company, typically, I shouldn't say typically, in many cases, the chairman and the CEO are becoming knowing each other, and they are sometimes good friends. So if the CEO doesn't like to lose, to be acquired by other company, to lose job, maybe the chairman would back him up on that, and therefore, in several cases, if you want to take over a company, you go over the head and you go directly to the shareholders, and in the shareholder meeting you offer what they called hostile takeover offer, and the shareholders, if they approve what you want, then you get you take over the company, or you get a majority and you can do whatever you want in the company. So today sometimes they call it, it's not the same but similar, activists who start buying shares of the company and then trying to take over or to replace the board member, then slowly the CEO, and they even sometimes merge one company with another company, and playing with companies, and eventually add value to the companies for the benefit of shareholders. Okay, that's the environment. Now let's go for what it says. So we are talking about a specific case. It's called the Campeau Tender offer. Robert Campeau tried to buy the Federated Stores and its crown jewel Bloomingdale's. So Bloomingdale's was one of the main company in the Federated Stores. Campeau used what we call the two-tiered tender offer. It's not an easy one. So slowly. This is a bidding strategy which offers a high price to the first shares tendered and a lower price to the later shares tendered. Okay, let's say that the first 50%, let's say yes, they will get one price for their shares. In this case here, 105. And the other 50% will get only an offer of $90 per share. Okay, so so these are the two tiers. Okay, we'll read carefully, and we have some twist about what I say now. But first, to understand what's going on, think as if Campeau comes to all shareholders, write them letters. They may see it in the US, in Canada, in South America, in South Asia, whatever, okay, in New Zealand, Australia. They get an email, letter, saying, we want to buy your shares. And we offer you, if the first 50% of the shareholders that say yes, they will get $105 per share. By the way, in the market, it is traded now for 100. So if you get 105, maybe you would say yes. And then they say, however, for the other 50%, I'm ready to pay only $90. That's the two-tier. Let's read it now slowly. Let us be more specific. Suppose that 1. The pre-takeover market price is $100 per share. 2. The first tier of the bid offers a higher price of 105 per share, up to half of the total shares. So let's say I'm getting, I put them email and I'm getting tomorrow morning. I'm getting a reaction by some shareholders say I am for it. Okay, that shareholder, let's say, hold very small amount. I give them 105. Then another one comes, 105 per share, until all of a sudden I have 50%. I cannot stop it. Then the next 1% that comes to me, they are going to get only $90 if they say yes. Okay? So I say the best is that, for everyone is, not for everyone, but for those that say yes, that only that they are in the first 50% of the people saying yes. All those are getting $105 per share, up to half of the total shares. Okay, the next 50% of the shares will be paid only $90 per share. Okay, before I go to 3 to explain what's going on, I want to tell you this. This is unfair, correct? Why it's unfair? Because say that I was sick, I couldn't see the mail, and by the time I saw it and I wanted to say yes, I'm already after I'm in the 70% that say yes. I'm getting of 55% saying yes. Then I'm getting only $90. If you are quicker than me, for any reason, you are going to get 105, and just because I was sick or I couldn't see it or whatever, I'm getting 90. That's unfair. So Campeau says, you know what, I understand that. I'll give all of you the same price, but the price will be a blended price, namely a weighted average. What does it mean? Now let's read it. So instead of having the two-tiered, I'll do something equivalently so that everyone that say yes, they will get the same price for me. By the way, I want to say something important. I don't contingent anything. Even if I get only 20% and maybe I don't have majority, I cannot do anything. Why should I pay $5 more if I cannot do anything? Still, I would buy all the 20% that will tender. I will pay each one of them $105 per every share they have. Okay? So this is uncontingent on anything. Okay? You say yes, you get your money. Okay. So now let's read what is the blended price that I said. Share prices are not determined by the order in which they are tendered. So we say it doesn't matter if you were fast or slow, you all are going to get the same thing. Rather, everyone gets a blended price or average price. Everyone. What is the price? So if the total percentage of shares tendered is X percent, then each will get 105 as long as this X is below 50. Okay, also equal 50. So if then we look how many we're waiting for the slow, for the quick, and we say you have a month to think of it, don't rush. We'll see how many will say yes. If the percentage of shareholders that say yes does not exceed 50%, 50 or below, then everyone is going to get $105 per every share they tender. What happens if X is more than 50? Then I'll tell you what I do. Okay, let me start with an example. Suppose 60% say yes. Okay, just 60%. What is the price that I give everyone? So 50 out of 60 will get 105. And the rest, what is the rest? 60% says yes. So 50 out of them will get 105, as I promised. The other 10% of the 60 will get 90. If I remember correct, this is 102 and a half. Or maybe just 102. I don't think so. No, it has 102 and a half. Namely, each one of you, instead of getting 105 because more than 50% say yes, and instead of the last 10% over the 50% will get 90, I give you the average, weighted average between the 105 and 90, where the weight depend on how many more than 50% say yes to me. So look here, what is weighted? This weight plus this always have to add up to 1. So this is 5/6 plus 1/6, it's 1. So weighted average, where I put higher weight for the 105 and lower weight to 90. Okay, so it should be closer to 105 than to 90, because I put 105, I give it higher weight. What is the weight I give 105? 50 over the number of shareholders that say yes. 50 out, in this case, 50 out of 60 in percentage term. Let's say that everyone is saying yes. Okay, let's say that X equal 100. Everyone is saying yes. What will happen? What will be the price that each one will get? 50 over the 100 will get 105. So all the time I look how many say yes. 50 out of the yes getting 105, and the rest, what is the rest? 100 minus 50, again 50 over the 100, they are going to get 90. This is 97 and a half. If everyone is going to say yes, everyone is going to lose $2.50 because they can sell it in the market for $100. That's the market price. What is the formula in general? Suppose X say yes, 50 out of the X, and let's say if X is below 50, everyone is getting 105. We're talking only what happens if more than 50% say yes. Then 50 out of those that say yes getting 105. The rest, which is X minus 50 over the X, getting 90. Now look, this is the weight and the weight. It should add up to 1. Let's just check. I have 50, the same X down, plus X minus 50 is X, divided by X is 1. So it's a weighted average. The total weights add up to 1, where the 105, what is the weight? 50 over the total number that say yes. Okay? Okay. So let's give another example. So as I said, at 100, 97.5. At 60, by the way, as if 60% say yes, so I said 50 out of the 60 getting 105, and 10 out of the other 10 out of the 60 getting 90. Let's do it to make sure. So 5 and 6 goes. This divided by 3 is 35. This is 2. This is 5 times 35 is 175. Divide by 2, but let me first do this. This is 90 over 6 is 5. This is 5. And this is 175 divided by 2 is 175 divided by 2 is 87.5. Plus 2, I made a mistake here, so maybe here I made a mistake. This is 90 over 6 is 15. Now it's okay. So 87.5 plus 15 is 102.5. Good. So what happens if 75 say yes? 50 out of the 75 getting 105. The other 25 out of the 75 get 90. If you make the calculation, you are completely indifferent. So up to, let me take a slurp of my coffee now. It is good, I have to tell you. It is even better. And now I feel much better to say that if 75% of you say yes, then what do you get exactly? The market price, 100. So you're indifferent. But you don't know how many will say yes. You are sitting now in Australia, okay, and you got a letter. You don't know, you say yes, but you don't know how many others will say. For instance, if you believe that all the others will say yes, you should run away. Okay? What should you say? Sorry. Let's say if you feel that all the others say yes, actually, what should you do? Let's think of it. If I believe that everyone is going to say yes, almost 100% is going to say yes, I'm a small shareholder. I know that everyone is going to get what? 97.5. If I don't say yes, if I say yes, I get also 97.5. If I don't say yes, I'm getting only $90. So I should also say yes. But I wish when I say yes that at most 50% will say yes. In that case, I'm getting $105. Okay, so if 50 or less saying yes, each gets $105 per every share you have. Thus, the price per share will range between 97.5. This is the case if everyone says yes. If no one says yes, so 50 up to 50%, 105. So anything in between these two numbers can happen depending on X, the number of the percentage of shareholders that say yes, depending on the number of shares tendered. I hope you understood that. So let me just make sure that we all understand correctly. So again, the idea before the two-tiered, Campeau comes and say, you know what? The first 50% will get 105. The rest, if there is rest, if more than 50% say yes, each one of the more, the access, they will get $90 only. Hey, it's unfair. Why I'm getting 105, the other one get 90 or opposite? You're right. Let's do that. Everyone will get the same, will get from me the same price. But the price will be some average of the 90 and the 105. So if 50% or less saying yes, 105. What if more? Let's say 60%. Okay, or let's do 70% now, say yes. What do? I say okay. 50 out of the 70, namely 50 divided by 70, get 105 times 105 plus the other 20%, because 70 is 20% more than 50. The other 20% out of the 70 will get 90. And let's see what it comes from. It comes to less than probably 101, I don't know, 0.7. Okay, so this is the idea. We continue. By the way, it happened in reality. I'm not sure about the numbers, but exactly the same thing happened. Number 4, the two-tiered offer is made unconditional. That's what I told you before. It's very important. On the number of shares tendered. Even if the raider does not get control, namely he gets less than 50% and therefore is not fully control the company, shares are still purchased at $105 per share, which is the first tier price. Think of let's say that 5% only said yes to him, to Campeau, Robert Campeau. So every one of the 5% will get 105. 35% yes, say yes. Each gets 105 per share. 49 say yes. Each gets 105. 50, still 105. 60, start getting down. 102.5. 75, it went down to 100. Everyone, 100% say yes. Everyone is getting 97.5. So it's risky for the shareholder. They may find themselves losing money. That's the problem. However, he says, look, I can also lose money, Campeau. If only 5% of you, 10% say yes, I am not interested in this company. What can I do? But I have to pay you 105. I'm losing $5 per share because the market price is 100. So I take a risk, you take a risk. Okay. If the offer attracts more than 50% of the now number 5 is very important. I want to talk about it because this happens in reality not seldomly. Okay, if the offer attracts more than 50% of the shares, Campeau can force every other shareholder to sell his shares for $90, namely the second tier price. This is a very important point. And for that point, because it's very important, I need another slug. How good? Fine, now I'm ready. Look, let's say, and by the way, the threshold under which you can squeeze, okay, let me say, here, what does it mean? He got 60%, but he wants 100%. So he can squeeze all the other to sell their shares at the second tier. Now, by the way, by law, it was okay, provided that the difference between the two tiers, here it's 105 and 90, is not that material. By the way, 105 and 90 considered to be quite close. So what happens if I am Campeau? 75% of you say yes. I pay you 100. Okay? Let's see. If you know what? Let's do the 60. 60% say yes. I pay each one of you 102.5. Now, what about the other 40%? Because I want to take this company out of the market to make a new, to fire the management, to bring another management, to do some reorganization of the firm. So and then after I'm prepared and the firm is back to act efficiently, I may put it in the market again. So what about the 40%? I can force the 40% to sell it to me for $90 per share. Maybe that doesn't look fair, but that's the law. Used to be, at least. Let me tell you something. I was involved in hostile takeover of a company in the UK. And there in the UK, I think it was, you needed over 75%. If I could get 75%, I could squeeze all the rest, namely 25%, and paying them. But what we do, it was not a two-tiered. It was one number. We gave a number. Let's say I'm ready to buy every share of the company for $10 per share. And let's say 75% say yes, the other one say no. Still, if I get 75%, that was the threshold in the UK, in London, I could buy the other 25% at $10 per share. Since we have two tier, if the two tier are not like 105 and 50, the difference is reasonable difference, then I can force each one of you that say no to me to sell it to me at the lowest tier, in this case $90 per share. Okay? By the way, in Israel, in most cases, it is the squeeze threshold. When you squeeze the other, squeeze meaning you squeeze the other to force them to sell to you their shares. In Israel, it's over 90% in most cases. Okay. But that depends sometimes on the article of association of every company. When you establish the company, you can say, unless you have state rule, you can say the squeeze for my company is 95% or 50% or 60% or 75% or whatever. Okay, in that case it was 50%. So thus the price, no, we are in the next, okay, so let me read again 5. If the offer attracts more than 50%, I have a majority. Campeau can force every other shareholder to sell his shares or her shares for $90 per share. What is the $90? The second tier price. Okay, so this is Campeau trying to buy what? Campeau tried to buy the Federated Stores, okay, with Bloomingdale inside by two-tiered tender offer. So he came to Federated Stores and put whatever I told you, put the offer on the table, send every shareholder whatever I told you, he sent them. But it so happened that in addition to Campeau, Macy's came along and made a conditional offer. Campeau unconditional, Macy's conditional. What is the difference? It offered $102 per share, just one tier. Give me a share if you sell it to me, I'm going to pay you $102 per share. However, that's the condition, provided it gets the majority of the shares. If I get less than 50%, I'm out. I don't pay anyone. Okay, so I'm ready to pay 102. So everyone will tell me, now everyone should tell, I'm going for Campeau, I say yes to Campeau, I say yes to Macy's, or I say no to both. But if Macy's gets 40% of the votes for her, they accept the offer of Macy's, nothing happened with Macy's. Why? Macy's will not do anything unless they have more than 50%. 50.01 is fine. In that case, everyone is going to get $102. Okay? In this case, every share will be bought at 102 whether tender or not. So I squeeze the other. Let's say I got as Macy's, I 70% say yes, I pay the 70%, 102. Then I say, okay, you 30% that say no to me, I can squeeze you, I pay you 102 as well, and actually I buy every share at 102. That's not Campeau. And by the way, it's only, the condition is that I have majority. If I have no majority, I'm out of the game. I disappear. So, what's the difference between the other two? The other two is that when you squeeze, you can pay the one that were squeezed, the one that said no to Campeau, you can squeeze them and then force them to sell you their shares for the lower tier, namely $90 per share. Macy's made it very simple. One price, 102. But we want majority. Question, to whom should one tender? So you are sitting now at home, you got this letter, you understand what I told you. Let's say that you understood it, and you sit down and think, what should I do? Should I say yes to Campeau? Should I say yes to Macy's? Or should I say no to both of them? I'm out in both cases. Okay? Obviously, one thing that you don't want, that everyone will say yes to Campeau, because they are going to lose if everyone is saying yes, 100%. If 100% yes, say to what each gets, $97.50, they can sell it in the market for $100. So they are going to lose. So what is the result? That's the question. Here is a surprise. This is a prisoner's dilemma game. Namely, everyone has strictly dominant strategy. And once they play their strictly dominant strategy, they end up with an inferior outcome. What is the strictly dominant strategy of each one of the shareholders? We'll prove it in a second with your permission. It is to say yes to Campeau. But when everyone is saying yes to Campeau, the outcome is 97.5 to each one of them. What happens? Everyone is worse off. For instance, a better outcome. Everyone say yes to Macy's. They get 102. Another one better. 50% say yes to Campeau and 50% say no to Campeau. I mean, a little bit less than 50. It doesn't have the majority. Then the ones that say yes get 105. The one that say no gets 0. He cannot squeeze them. He doesn't have a majority. It's better than everyone is getting 97.5. For everyone, this is better. Or if you want, it's better to say everyone's saying yes to Macy's. Everyone will get 102.5. So how come that everyone is saying yes to Campeau and everyone is losing $2.50? And you can't get out of this. It's the only sensible outcome of this game. So this is an example of prisoner's dilemma with an ocean of players, millions of shareholders. Okay, typically in our example previously, I got prisoner's dilemma with 2 all the time. Here you have prisoner's dilemma with many. Remember, what is a prisoner's dilemma game? It's a game where every player has strictly dominant strategy. And once they select their dominant strategy, by the way, if they will not select it, they will get even worse. So once they select their very sensible, strictly dominant strategy, everyone is worse off. You get inferior outcome. We'll get into it in a second. But first, let's understand the solution of the game, not before your lecturer is taking another schluck. I took it, and I'm happy now. And now I'm going to prove the claim to you. Okay? Now, claim it is a dominant strategy, strictly dominant strategy, to tender to the 2-tiered offer. I should put here strictly dominant. Explanation. Let's say Bob is a shareholder. I'm Bob. Call me Bob now. Consider 3 cases, and that covers all possible cases. with me, Bob, with me, the two-tiered offer of Campeau attract less than 50% of the total shares. Let's say that even with me, I don't know, let's first go through all the three. The first scenario that's possible to have, that even with me, he's going to get less than 50%. In that case, everyone will get 105. But let's continue. That's one possibility. The other possibility, without me, he has a majority. He doesn't need me. Without Bob, the TTO attracts more than 50% of total shares. So, let me say again, with me, where he gets less than 50%. Now the other one, even without me, doesn't need me, he gets more than 50%. So what's left? That Bob is pivot, that I'm pivot. Without me, the TTO attracts less than 50, and with me, it attracts more than 50. There is no other case. The three cases covered everything possible. Think of it slowly, you will see it. Okay, again, think of here's the 50%. Okay, even with me, he is here. That's one possible. This is the 50%, this is below, this is above. So even with me, okay, he gets less than 50%. Now, the other case, he doesn't need me. He gets more than 50%, even without me. Great, then he can squeeze everyone, he got more, he got control. So what's left? Left that he doesn't, okay, first of all, that, the beginning I say that with Bob, he attracts less than 50%. So that means if this is not correct, to say that with Bob he attracts more than 50. That's the opposite. With Bob he has more than 50%. What is the opposite of 2? 2 says that he doesn't need me. He has 50%. Okay? So that means that without me, he doesn't have 50%. Okay? I'm talking about the opposite. Sorry. That even the opposite, sorry, let me write it. Without Bob, he attracts more than 50. So the opposite, that with Bob, less than 50. No, sorry. Without Bob, less than 50. With Bob, more than 50. But without Bob, he gets less than 50. Okay, so the question here, with or without? Without, he gets more than 50. Okay? Without, he gets less. That's the opposite. He doesn't get more than 50. He gets less than 50. Okay? Let's do it here. With Bob, and he attracts less than 50%. Okay? So with Bob. So without Bob, okay, and the opposite of this is that without Bob, he attracts less than 50. With Bob, the opposite of this, with Bob, he attracts more than 50. So Bob is a pivot. Bob is pivot. Without him, the TTO attracts less than 50, and with him, it attracts more than 50. If I will show you, I don't know, I am a shareholder. I have no idea if this is the case. How do I know if with me is less than 50 or not? I don't know if I'm in this case, that without me, he attracts more than 50%. He doesn't even need me. He gets the majority. Or he really needs me. Without me, he doesn't have the majority. Okay? And with me, he has a majority. I have no idea if the case is 1, 2, or 3. Because I don't know how every one of you, the shareholders, will vote. If I will show you that in each one of the cases I should say yes to Campeau, then I don't care if I'm in case 1, 2, or 3, I should say yes to Campeau. And that will prove that saying yes to Campeau is a dominant strategy. What does it mean, strictly dominant strategy? No matter what the others are doing, I should say yes. No matter if the others are doing in such a way that 1 is correct, or 2 is correct, or 3 is correct, I should say yes. So no matter what you do, if you say yeah, part of you say yes, no, I don't care how many, I should say yes. So I'm going to prove it to you next, that in each one of the cases, 3 cases, a shareholder must say, a sensible or rational shareholder must say yes to Campeau. Okay. I hope that at least it is understood. Okay? Let me go over. So the first case. Okay? What is the first case? You know what? Let me say it first without looking on. I'll show you everything here. I'll prove it to you verbally now, and then we'll read. So otherwise we may not see the cases. So let's assume case 1. I'm sitting home and I say to myself, what happens if he attracts less than 50%? By the way, I should say the assumption is that shareholders are not, they have more or less than each shareholder, they're not big shareholders. Each one of them has at most, let's say, 10%. I think 12.5% is what needed. But let's say no one holds more than 10%. By the way, if in big company like Federal Stores, I'm pretty sure that this happened, unless you have all of a sudden Bill Gates or Elon Musk or Bezos that hold in a company. In most cases, let's talk about Warren Buffett. For instance, Warren Buffett is the biggest shareholder in Coca-Cola. You know how many shares he holds? In between 3 to 4%, maybe 3.5%. I'm not sure about that exactly, but it's in between 3 to 4. And he is the biggest shareholder. So typically, in big companies, shareholders are very small. So I'm not talking, whatever I say here, the claim, we're talking about companies where the shareholders are relatively small. No one has more than 10%. Even, as I said, even 12% is good. Okay. Now, case 1. So I'm Bob, and I say, suppose that even if I join, he has less than 50% of total shares. So if I say yes, what do I get? I get for sure 105. Because he said, Campeau, not he said, he committed to buy unconditional, if he has a majority or not, he will pay everyone according to the formula P of X, but it means that up to 50% he pays $105 each. So if I am in the case where with me I send yes, and the other that say yes together with me are counted for less than 50%, each one of us got 105. None, what is that? In the market I could get 100 at the beginning. My Macy's offer me, if conditional on them to have a majority, 102. So I'm best off saying yes to. I cannot get more than 105. Okay, no circumstances can give me more than 105. So if I believe that I'm in case 1, I should say yes to Campeau. Okay, if I believe, but I may be in case 2. So let's check case 2. Case 2, he doesn't need me. He got a majority. So look, if he got a majority, he's going to squeeze me. So if I say no to him, let's say I said yes to Macy's, but if he got a majority, Campeau, Macy's did not get a majority. They cannot both get a majority. So if Campeau get more than 50%, meaning that Macy's get less than 50%, then Macy's is out. Okay? Then what happens? Then he can squeeze me. And he can squeeze me. And I'm going to get in that case the lower tier, which is $90. So if I say yes, I don't know how many, but in the worst case scenario, everyone say yes to him. So the price falls to what? 97 $2.5 per share. Let's say the worst case, I'm going to lose 2.5, but if I say yes. But if I say no, and he has a majority, he's going to squeeze me, and then I'm going to get only $90 per share. Namely, I have to say yes. I don't want to be squeezed. Okay, so in case 2, in case 1, I have to say yes. In case 2, I have to say yes. Now let's go to case 3. Suppose that I'm a pivot. Without me, he doesn't have majority. With me, he has a majority. Let's think of a second. Let's say I have 3%, just for the case of. Then let's say without me, he got 48%, and with my 3%, he gets 51%. But it's very close to 50, 55. Let's say I'm holding 7%, maybe with me 55%, maybe 60. Okay? So, and let's say I have 10% and he almost had the 50% and with me 60. Then if I say yes to him, I'm going to get around 105. The worst case, let's say I have 10% and he can get with me 60%, then what? I'll get 102.5. Okay? And and if I say this, I'm a pivot. So if I say yes, I'm getting around 102.5. If I say no, okay, then he has no majority. I'm getting nothing. I'm getting 100 in the market. Remember, if with me may get at most, let's say 60%, I can be below me 50, with me 60, let's say I have 10%, okay? So I can bring him, let's say, to 60, then I can, then the worst case scenario that I'm getting 102.5 if I say yes, probably if he has 55, then I get probably 103.5, maybe close to 50, I'm going to get 105. So maybe I'm getting 105 or 104, 103, the worst case 102.5. If I'm big, if I say yes. Even if with me, let's say Macy's will have a majority with my 10%, okay, then I get 102, but here I'm getting more. So no matter what, and if I say no to him and no to Macy's, what do I get? 100 in the market. So no matter what, in all 3 cases, I should say yes. Therefore, and it is always strictly, it's not that I'm indifferent, I always strictly better saying yes to Campeau than saying either yes to Macy's or yes or no to both. And the outcome is that 100% say yes, because everyone can make this computation. Everyone will say yes to Campeau. And once we say yes to Campeau, 100% say yes to Campeau, then we each get $97.5 and we lose money. Lose relative to the market. Let's read it now. In the first case, if Bob tenders to the TTO, he obtains 105 per share. If he and otherwise he obtains per share. In the first case, we even with Bob, Campeau is less than 50%, so everyone that say yes get the 105. So in the first case, if Bob tenders to the TTO, he obtains 105 per share, and otherwise obtains per share either 100 if both fails, or 102 if he says yes to Macy's and Macy's succeed. So, but 105 is better. Hence, he is best off tendering to the TTO. He's not indifferent. He will get more. In the second case, what is the second case? Campeau doesn't need me. He has a majority. He has, let's say, 70% without me, or 55% without me. In the second case, the TTO succeeds, and Campeau is the winner, whether or not Bob tenders his shares. If Bob does not tender, he will be obtain $90 per share. He's going to be squeezed and obtain 90% per share. While if he tenders, he will obtain at least 97.5. If he says yes and everyone say yes, in that case, the worst case scenario, he gets 97.5. But it's better than 90. So in the second, if I find myself, if Bob find myself in himself in the second scenario, then he can get either more or equal to 97.5, depending how many others say yes, okay? And otherwise he's getting 90. Let's say that only 55 say yes. Then you will get like $105. Okay, you have to do, let's say 55 say yes, then it's 55. 50 out of the 55 is 105, plus the rest 5 over 55 is 90. So it's very close to the 105 because I multiply this, but this is 10 over 11. So you have to make the calculation. I'm pretty sure it's around 104. Okay? But you make the calculation. So, but let's say now not 55, but rather, okay, I said yes, and my God, everyone said yes, I'm getting 97.5. But if I say no, he's going to squeeze me. He has a majority, 90. So this is strictly better than this. In the third case, under the assumption that Bob is not a massive shareholder, holds less than 12.5%, actually I say 10% or less, he will get more than $102 per share. Okay, in the worst case, if he has 12.5%, he removes from, let's say that the Campeau got almost 49.999999, and I have at 12.5%, I brought him into 62.5. So now this is, what is the price of 62.5? It is 50 over 62.5, 105, and the rest 12.5 times 62.5 is 90. This is exactly 102. So if I have less than 100 and less than 12.5, I bring it to less than 62.5. I'm getting more than, because the smaller it is, the more that you get. I'm getting a little bit more than 102. It's better than the market, better than the Macy's. He will get more than 102 per share if he tenders to the TTO, and if he said yes to the TTO, and get either 100 or 102 per share. This is for Macy's, this is from the market, if he says no. No to Campeau, well, if he says yes to Macy's and Macy's got a majority, he may get 102. If he say no to both, he gets 100. Okay? But here he gets more than 102. In all three cases, Bob is best off tendering to the TTO. Corollary. Every shareholder will tender to the TTO because it is strictly dominant strategy for each shareholder. And each one of them will obtain 97.5 per share, less than the current market price. This is another example of the prisoner's dilemma game, where every player has a dominant strategy, but once they use it, and they should use it, otherwise they will get even less, the outcome is inferior, 97.5 versus 100. Or versus 102 if all of them saying yes to Macy's. Lawyers view the TTO as coercive and have successfully used this as an argument to fight the raider in court. So they said, look, once it was published, all kind of people look on it carefully and say, this guy is quite a clever guy, okay? In what sense? He makes the auction in such a way that all of us are going, instead of we can sell our shares in the market for $100, we all give our shares to him for $97.5. This is a trick. And they convinced the court. Okay? In the Battle of Bloomingdale's, Campeau eventually won, but with a different offer that did not include any tiered structure. Just one price. But still, he won it. You want to know the end of the story? He won it. He was very happy to have the Federated Stores, and he went bankrupt. Not every end is a happy end. So just a remark to the end. As you remember, what our assumption was that Macy's put a condition. They are ready to pay $102 per share only if they get a majority. That makes the entire thing, that makes the game a prisoner's dilemma game. If they would not put any restriction and say, anyone that says yes to me, doesn't matter if I have a majority or not, I'm going to pay 102, my proof that the game is a prisoner's dilemma game would fail. Why? Because what did we say in the case number 2, where we say that in case Campeau is a majority even without Bob, then Campeau is going to squeeze everyone. But if he has a majority, here comes the point. Macy's cannot have a majority, and therefore Macy's is out. Therefore, if I said even yes to Macy's, hoping to get 102, I'm not getting from Macy's anything. So now I am in the minority. That part that say no to Campeau, even though Campeau is a majority. Therefore, Campeau can squeeze me. And at the end, I'm going to get 90, so I'm better off say yes now. In the worst case, if I say yes, I'll get 97.5, maybe more. If Macy's would say for sure, no matter what, the unconditional, you are going to get 102, that part fails, because then maybe I should say yes to Macy's to get 102 for sure, and in case he has a majority, I'm not afraid because I'm getting 102. Okay? The one that is going to lose as a result of case 2 is Macy's. Because Macy's is going to pay me 102, to pay everyone that says yes, 102, say yes to Macy's, 102, and then Campeau as a majority is going to squeeze Macy's and force Macy's to sell all the shares that Macy's collected from shareholders and then buy it for $90 only. So this part is a very big risk of Macy's that Macy's try to avoid. But before they try to avoid, they cannot win, because the result, if they say yes, if they put a condition, then as we proved, Campeau wins in a very decisive way, because it's a dominant strictly dominant strategy for each shareholders to say yes to Campeau in case Macy's put a conditioned offer. That's what actually happened. Thank you very much. And next time we are going to talk about merger acquisition, but under asymmetry of information. This is a very interesting and important topic. Until then, I wish you all the best and keep safe. Bye-bye.